here with Pro Video Coalition. We are talking to Zeiss about the Radiance lenses. These are large format lenses that are all T1.5. I'm not a lens expert. I don't pretend to be one, but I have one right here.
How you doing? My name is Snehal Patel, and I'm from Zeiss. I'm the cinema sales director for North and South America, and basically in charge of figuring out how we're going to sell cinema lenses for Zeiss in the Americas. And yeah, absolutely, our interesting product that we were going to showcase in a big way at NAB, but we've been talking about a lot, is the Supreme Prime Radiance lenses. This is a new line of lenses that is being offered this year, and we just started deliveries actually before kind of the pandemic took over both North, East, and West Coast. But at that time, we were already shipping out these Radiance lenses this year. So this was something we were going to talk a lot about at NAB because it's an interesting characteristic these lenses have. You can see the blue reflection right there that's coming from the white light source that I have. And that's because this lens reflects back and internally as well reflects around a small spectrum of blue light. And that blue light causes interesting flare characteristics that people like. They're very pleasing. They're controllable. If you have a light source pointed into the lens, you're going to see it. If you don't, it's not an uncoated lens, so it's just not going to light up really easily with light. It's a very controlled type of flare characteristic. So it's quite a cool option, compared to our normal Supreme Primes, because we have a set of normal Supreme Primes as well that don't have this gold ring that you see over here. They don't have this stamp at the top, but the Supreme Prime lenses, the focal range is going to go from 15 to 200 millimeter. And for the Radiance, we picked 7 of those 14 focal lanes to create the Radiance line, and that's 21 to 100. There's 7 focal lanes: 21, 25, 35, 50, 85, and 100. And so altogether, wait, did I miss one? 20, 21, 25, 29. There we go. 35, 50, 29, 35, 50, 85, 100. And those 7 focal lanes together comprise the set of Radiance lenses. If you are a rental house or an owner operator interested in purchasing the set, you would have to buy all 7 of them at the same time. And the reason we do that is because we know that this will be a special lens in the rental house, market, and there will be television shows and movies are going to require 2 to 3 sets at a time. And having a full set, even if you're a smaller rental house, you'll be able to sub-rent this really easily because it'll be a small run. We're doing a very small run of these lenses. So you have to, sign up quickly before the lens sets run out. And that means that everyone who has a 7 lens set will have a valuable set of lenses that they can rent out if they're not using it. And we really wanted to make sure that our customers were able to make money from the lenses in the long term. Because in terms of what people want, we know from Super 35 filming that people use all kinds of vintage lenses and cool looks and characteristics with the smaller sensor size. But with the larger full frame plus, there's way fewer choices in terms of cool looks. So this is a modern lens with modern mechanics, modern coatings, modern production quality. Basically, this is a Supreme Prime lens with a special look. So now you have a choice. Do you want a clean look or do you want a look that's a little bit different? And the way that this lens is different is because of the blue flare characteristics it puts out, and also the fact that the image is overall a little bit warmer than a regular Supreme Prime. So you can watch the trailer for the new season of Fargo season 4. Dana Gonzalez, the cinematographer, the main cinematographer on the show, chose the Radiance lenses as their line of lenses. So they used all Radiance lenses and a couple of Supreme Prime focal lengths to kind of fill in the blanks to shoot this show. It was the first show in all of the Americas television show to use the Radiance fully like that. We also had one show that used it for 2 episodes, which was Motherland Fort Salem, which is on Hulu right now, or Freeform, which was the production company that made the show, but it was filmed in Canada. And John Joffin, the cinematographer, chose to use the Radiance lenses prototypes for the last 2 episodes. So the season finale is actually filmed with Radiance lenses, and the rest of the season is filmed with regular Supreme Prime lenses.
Let me ask you a question now. So the Radiant lens has just 7 lenses. Mm-hmm. Why just the 7? Why not the extreme wides or the extreme long lenses that you get in the other Supreme Primes?
So we have the ability to make more focal lengths if we want. But it's a process. It takes time and research. So I could actually show you the kind of lengths that we went through to create this, because what happens is flare characteristics are, there's a number of reasons why there's flare characteristics. It's not just because of one thing or another. There's a number of things working in terms of optics that cause flare characteristics. And here I could show you a little example right here from our presentation that we have. We actually have this vlog recorded, so if anyone wants to dive deep and really get into the engineering and everything, this is just a summary. But if someone wants to really dive deep into it, we already have a vlog 2, the Cine Vlog 2, that's already on YouTube that you can take a look at, that will explain this in more detail. But generally, what I want to talk about is where are these flare characteristics coming from? Well, the flare characteristics come from the interaction between a light source and then the optical glass and other elements of the lens itself. So as light goes through the lens, things are happening to change this, and not allowing for a clean pass of light. So normally, if you just had regular exposure, an object exposed normally, it would, the light would just pass through, and then it would hit the sensor plane or the film plane, and you would have your exposed image on the other end.
Yeah.
But we're not in an ideal world, and we need light sources, right? Sometimes those light sources are in the frame. So in this case, when the sun's in the frame, it actually interacts with the optics to create a flare. And the flare is based on a few different things. One is the optical surfaces. There's light bouncing around inside, and that's creating ghosted images. So you can see a circle here of the ghosted image, and it's like a representation of a reflection of the optics that are inside the lens itself. Then the other thing is light scattered from mechanical surfaces, and that can create a shape that almost looks like the barrel of a lens, which you see in this yellow oval over here. And then the third thing is light scattered off of optical surfaces like a low pass filter or a sensor, and that causes a halo effect that's around the light source. And then you also have diffraction from the iris itself. So all these things together create the flare characteristics that you're used to. And it's pretty, like, people like to use these characteristics, and some lenses cause more of it than others. So what we do is we take these flare characteristics and we try to figure out mathematically using a supercomputer if we change something in the lens, because normally we try to make sure that the anti-reflective coatings always pass through all the light clean, right? As much as possible.
Yeah.
That's why if you look at the front of any of our other lenses, you'll notice that on a regular Supreme Prime, you see a very faint reflection.
Yeah.
Very, very faint.
Barely
In fact,
there compared. Yeah.
Barely there, yeah, compared to the Radiance lens, where you distinctly see the blue shape, which is actually the light source, which is right here in front of me. So the interesting thing is that in a normal T-star anti-reflective coating, we're really trying to pass through all the light and now bounce it around. So you'll see that this is a filter that's half T-star coated and half not.
Oh, wow.
And you could see the half that doesn't have any anti-reflective coating easily lights up, right? And you can't see my eye, right, through the other side, the white side, but you could see it through this side right here. So I'll look right there so you can see it. Yeah, look at that. You can see my eye right there. So the interesting thing is that this is showing you a demonstration of with coating and without coating, with a direct light source coming right at it. And what we're doing with the Radiance lenses is that we're taking this concept of the reflectivity, and we're saying, okay, let's just reflect back a small spectrum of blue light, and they'll bounce around inside and scatter and cause a shape, okay, and a color. And we won't do that for all the lens elements. We'll use this special treatment on a number of lens elements, because you don't want to use it on everything, because sometimes that you could have like a dozen different lens elements inside, glass elements.
Yeah, and if
you don't want to reflecting. Yeah, if you did it for everything, you'd have blue all over the place and it will just overwhelm it.
Yeah.
You want to kind of control it. So we chose which elements to, out of a lens design to give to this treatment, right? So let's go back to the screen, and you can see that this is an experimentation. We tried different lens elements. So this is a 21 millimeter that we're developing here. And we tried different combinations of lens elements of like which coatings, what color it should be, how they should stack up, how they should line up together to create a shape that's pleasing. And then also, how do they line up so they all look the same?
Yeah.
So now you can see the development from the 25 to the 100, where now we make the shapes look similar by choosing which elements to coat with a special coating.
And that's got to be really helpful for a cinematographer who wants the same look, but he's gone from like a 29 to an 85.
Right, and you want the same type of flare. Now, in a vintage lens, maybe one focal length flared a lot better than another, right? Because they weren't necessarily maybe trying to create the flare. It just happened that the kind of coatings they were using weren't, blocking all the different types of light, or the optical design they had a lot of flaws, or the mechanics inside were really shiny and stuff was bouncing around inside. There's a lot of different reasons why this could have happened, right? Now we're actually controlling it. So instead of creating hundreds or thousands of prototypes, we're lining it up here in a computer. So this is all computer simulations that you see right now. And that's the interesting thing, is that when you create the prototype, so on the left is an actual 35 millimeter supreme prime radiance.
Okay.
On the right is a computer simulation. So we were able to dial it in so well that when we created the prototype, it actually looked like.
Yeah, those look like one's like a drawing of the other one.
Exactly. And the one on the left is actually a high resolution real image, and the one on the right is a low res, computer simulation of what we thought the flare characteristic should look like with this combination of coating of certain elements.
So one
keep considering all this stuff bounces around inside.
One of the things with cinematography is the repeatability of something.
Yes.
You mentioned Fargo, and I think one season of Fargo was shot on rehoused Pancros,
right?
Which, as I think you're well aware, are not scientifically made to be repeatable. Like a wide or a longer one may be a certain yellow and the others don't. But now with these new lenses, the Zeiss Radiance, you can go from one to the other, and you can chase the same flare on different focal lengths.
Yes, and it keeps it look consistent as well. So this is the final photograph 21 through 100. And you notice that the flare characteristics, even at the different T-stops, is very, very similar to one another. So this means that you could interchangeably use this. It's exactly like you said. You would get the same type of flare characteristics. But the other benefit that you would also get is that your overall look would still be the same, right?
Yeah.
So if you're reflecting back the same spectrum of blue light on each of the designs, right, you're going to get an overall warming of your image that's going to match really well. And at the same time, you're not sacrificing contrast and things like that. You're not losing a lot of contrast. As you can see that the flare is not overwhelming. It's not uncoated, so it's not taking over the whole image. Let me show you the difference between an uncoated and coated lens, because people ask about that, like, well, why don't you just uncoat some elements on your glass?
They're like, they want that flare, and they think it's a simple process, but you guys have taken it down to the, was it nano light, whatever. I'm not a scientist, so excuse me, but like down to that single wavelength.
It is to a nanoparticle, because the coatings we're using for this anti-reflective T-star coating together, is 1/300th the thickness of a human hair is how thin that layer of coating is. So you're absolutely right. We're going down to the nanoparticle level to understand how to control it, because here's an example of coated versus uncoated. Uncoated lenses drop exposure, because as it's going through all the different elements of glass, if it's uncoated and 10% of your light is bouncing back forward out of the frame, that even in an image that doesn't have a point light source, that's just a normal exposure, it's still not going to expose as easily. So that means your T15 lens, if you uncoat it, depending on how many elements you uncoat, you can drop down to a T27 instead if you uncoat everything instead of a T15. And of course, an uncoated lens has the detriment of any piece of light is going to light up the front element and cause a veiling glare, like you saw with the filter that I showed you the example.
Yeah.
And that's the big difference. You lose all that contrast. And the Supreme Prime Radiance doesn't do that.
And the problem then is you have a shooter who maybe is not as knowledgeable, who's like, hey, I love the flare, but I don't like the ghosting. So they might throw a polarizer in their matte box to fix some of that. And they're just kind of chasing this problem they will never catch up to. Is that correct?
Exactly. And having the more control, having a modern lens that has that good anti-reflective coating, but just happens to allow you to create just one type of flare, then gives you that control, right? So even if you watch Fargo season 4, the trailer, you'll notice there's not a lot of times where Dana or any other cinematographers is pushing a lot of light into the lens. So it's not flaring. It looks just like a Supreme Prime lens, but a little bit warmer. But when they do want to use it creatively, that tool is available to them. Yeah, so just to show you what that example of with and without that coating looks like, we have a great video example online. I'm just going to play it in the background for us. And you can see the difference between having with and without that coating
that is pretty.
treatment. Yeah. So we've had a number of cinematographers use it. Tobias Schliessler used it on a short film called Refugee, which was shortlisted for the Oscars. You know, Dana Gonzalez, of course, for the full season of Fargo, season 4. We had John Joffin use them, like I said, for Motherland, Fort Salem. Then a lot of cinematographers have used them for tons of commercials and short form content already. And Rodrigo Prieto actually did a short piece with us for the introduction of the lenses.
I remember
So,
this, yeah.
you know, yeah, so there's quite a few good, you know, cinematographers that want to use characteristics, that tend to use lenses with cool characteristics when they do Super 35, that are looking for choices in the larger format, because full frame is a very exciting format for cinematography. It provides a much bigger canvas. It provides a bigger frame than you're used to. You can go closer to your subject matter with longer focal lengths of lenses, which means there's less distortion and things look cleaner. So there's a lot of benefits to it, and people are really looking at this format seriously, especially now. You know, at NAB, you were going to see, you know, C500 from Mark II from Canon, which is affordable, FX9 from Sony, which is affordable, and a host of other full frame, you know, DSLR cameras or mirrorless cameras out there, as well as the high end Sony Venice from Sony, Alexa LF and LF Mini from Arri, and of course the Red Monstro from Red, which was one of the first systems really to use this.
The job of a cinematographer is to choose the elements and the tools you're going to use to tell a story, to help tell a story. R&R actually means receive and release. Prisoners are admitted in, and parolees are let out. The image that came to my mind was of a person leaving prison and seeing out the windows as a person's walking down the hallway, and the flare that would cause. And the flare represents many things in this case, but maybe it's hope, maybe it's you know, the sun outside. It's something to reach for. So the light sources became a very, very important point of this story, and the lenses allowed me to utilize the characteristics of them for storytelling. My name is Rodrigo Prieto, and I was a director and cinematographer of R&R.
It looks like a beautiful film. You know, it's interesting and you talk about the C500, the FX9, and these large format cameras, is there's really not a whole lot of full frame prime lenses available for them that aren't digital SLR lenses. I mean, there's Zeiss, there's I think Tokino, but there's really a piece of that market that you guys are filling.
Yeah, we're starting to see more from other manufacturers like Angenieux, Cook as well. So on the high end, definitely there are some more choices than there were just even a few years ago. But you know, Zeiss has been in this space for a long time. We've had full frame lenses specifically for cinema since 2009. So we've had like lenses like this, the Cinema Zoom. Here's a 70 to 200 over here, but there's a 15 to 30, a 28 to 80. Those are two zooms that are full frame as well. People use them all the time for larger format cinematography. The CP3s represent a transition from the CP2s, and those were full frame. CP2s were, and so are the CP3s. These are full frame. Affordable glass, so this is more for the market closer to the FX9 and the C500 Mark II, because it's more price, you know, sensitive and closer in value to those kinds of camera systems. And then, of course, on the high end, we have the Supreme Prime. So we have the regular Supreme Prime. Here's a 135 millimeter. So the 135 millimeter is 114 front diameter instead of 95 because of the longer focal length. But it basically is, you know, Supreme Prime, full frame capability, clean image. This is your successor to the Master Prime line of lenses. Very, very good contender and quite popular right now for full frame cinematography. And then, of course, we have the Radiance lenses, which we talked about, which is the new offering. So yes, we do have quite a few offerings at various price points. We do have, of course, full frame lenses for still photography, which you can use in cinematography, right?
Yeah, like the Otis, the Otis lenses. That lineup is a great set of if you're doing photos and if you're doing videos, because you can still roll focus like any other lens.
Absolutely. And then we also have the Milvis, which are more affordable, you know, than even the Otis. And the Milvis are quite nice, and you can get gear rings like this to put on them too. So, you know, if you have the Milvis lens, you can put a gear ring on it, and then you have a 0.8 pitch gear that allows you to use a follow focus system. So people are using Milvis, Otis lenses, Loxia. You know, Claudio Miranda used Loxia lenses, which are E-mount manual focus lenses for Top Gun Maverick, because Top Gun Maverick was using Sony Venice, and Sony Venice is actually native E-mount, Sony E-mount. If you take the PL mount off, there's an E-mount underneath. And you can actually use our E-mount lenses directly onto that camera body. So if you could imagine in the cockpit, they don't have a lot of room, so they use this Rialto system, which takes the sensor of the camera and moves it separately with the cable to the camera body. And then they set it up with Voigtlander and Zeiss Loxia lenses. And these are the two companies, Voigtlander and Zeiss ourselves, that make manual focus E-mount lenses. So they put an array of 3 or 4 of these cameras together to get a medium shot, a close-up, and a wider all at the same time.
Yeah,
and they're using our lenses, and they match really well, because the A lens in Top Gun, actually the main lens system is Master Primes, and the Premier Zoom from Fujinon are the main lenses that are used for like the A camera stuff. So, the specialty stuff matched really well because it was of the same type of quality. So yeah, we do have a lot of choices. We have choices for E mount, EF mount for Canon, F mount for Nikon. We have autofocus and manual focus for E mount for Sony E mount, Batis and Laxia. And of course, for cinema lenses, if you had a CP3, you have 5 different choices of mounts. So you can have PL mount, you can have EF for Canon, F for Nikon, micro 4/3, or native E mount as well. So on an FX9, you can go native E mount. You have a great set of lenses that work directly with the mount system that comes with the camera. And you can do the same thing with the CZ2 zooms, the cinema zooms like the 70 to 200 that's behind me, 15 to 30, 20 to 80. Those all have 5 choices of mounts. With the Supreme Prime or Supreme Prime Radiance, you can use LPL. So you can do the larger format, the mount that Arri uses for LF, for Alexa LF or LF Mini. You can use that mount too. So we always provide the choices that allows your lens system to be used with more than one camera system, so that you can keep it going, depending on if you're an owner operator and you buy stuff and then, you want to graduate from camera system to camera system, or if you're a rental house and you have many different clients with different needs, lens systems like the Zeiss Cinema lens systems provide you that capability to move between one camera system and another really easily. And you can do it yourself. Like I tell people all the time, you can change your mounts. These mounts are not difficult to change. It doesn't involve touching any optics, so you never have to worry about anything going out of whack. It's all mechanical, and you can get the tools to do it and to check the back focus on your own camera system. So we teach this. We have video training online and PDFs you can read, instructions, and we believe in making sure on 2 fronts everything is well. One, on the rental house front, you have the ability to back focus your lens. You have the ability to service your lens quickly, and the ability to change things on the lens yourself, like metric to imperial, for example, or swapping out the front and rear elements. And on the owner operator side, we want to make sure that you could, again, check your back focus for yourself. You can easily access service if you need it. And you have the tools available to be able to understand the technology. Like if it has metadata technology, you should be able to use it as a user, use it at home without having to have professional intervention. So we really try hard to make it as easy, as straightforward as possible, and offer all the training that we can. We have a great service partner with Able Cine in Burbank, in Los Angeles, also in Brooklyn, in New York. And these are like factory level service centers that have the same tools and testing equipment that we have at the factory at headquarters in Germany. So, we're trying to provide all the tools and everything necessary just to keep the lenses moving and working all the time, because, hey, that's the only way you can pay off equipment, right? If it works for you, and we want to make sure that these products work for you all the time. So we're known for making sure that if something goes wrong, we'll be there to help you to fix it.
So in many ways, your lens, your Zeiss lens especially, is going to last longer than your camera. So you take the 7200 in the CP3, you might be holding onto those forever.
Yeah, absolutely. You can be, people today use Zeiss high-speed lenses, which are also known as super speeds, Mark IIs and Mark IIIs, made 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago. They recondition them and still use them, daily in different rental houses. So that still happens. And there's a lot of people finding old glass, like Contax glass, which was, a partnership between Contax and Zeiss, and then repackaging it to use for cinematic applications. So people are used to, keeping Zeiss lenses alive. And we believe firmly that buying a lens today, like if I buy Supreme Prime Radiance, this lens better be, on the shelf in 30, 40 years. We might not make parts for it after a certain amount of time, but even after that, there are still going to be people that are going to be dedicated to keeping these lenses going in the rental market because they'll still be useful. No matter what, the thing with optics is great. The nice thing about optics, let's say, is that it doesn't matter if it's a film plane or a digital sensor plane, the optics are going to work the same no matter what. They're projecting an image on a 2D plane. And then it's up to the capture technology to make that into something. But the lens will still behave the same way. It's not going to change.
Mhm.
So that's the beautiful part about it, is that the optics will always behave like optics. It's usually the camera technology that's changing faster. So your statement is absolutely correct. You buy a set of, let's say, CP3 lenses as an owner operator, you should be able to go through the next 4, 5, 6 different camera iterations with these lenses and keep them working for you for a long period of time. Now, you might graduate to using a higher level lens, after 5 years or 7 years in your career, but that doesn't mean that those CP3s won't come out when you need them. For, today, we have rental houses telling us that, oh, there's some DP that owns a set of CP2s. Now he's using it on drone applications while shooting, A camera master primes or supreme primes.
Yeah.
So you never know how they're going to come in handy later on too.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you for taking the time to talk to me about the Radiance lenses and other Zeiss lenses. And I appreciate all the time you spent with us.
Absolutely. I have one more screen to share, which is a link to an article we have about the Radiance lenses. And there's a short film there as well called All Blood Runs Red. And people really like this short film because it showcases the flare characteristics and kind of like the quality of the Supreme Prime Radiance really well. So I encourage people to go to this blog entry and check it out. And if you want, you could also get more information at zeiss.com/cine, CINE.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you for spending the time. And let's wrap this up. This is guys, a lot of information to unpack here. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. I really appreciate your time.
All right. Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.